Hey, experts, we've got something really awesome that we do here at Coffee Experts Club, and that's called the My First Drive-Through Coffee Masterclass. So if you're opening your next coffee shop, I think a lot of times you may think to yourself, I know what goes into opening a coffee shop. I've been doing this for years, but maybe you've been doing it for somebody else. And maybe this is your first option of starting a coffee shop on your own. Or maybe you don't know anything about coffee and you're just like, I'm looking for a good investment opportunity. Starting a coffee shop seems like a good place to put it, and you're going to enter into it. But what you don't know is all the things that you don't know, right? And so what we've done with this masterclass is taken behind the scenes, how you find your first location, what you need to be thinking about in finding a location. We give you a gift in the masterclass where it's a step-by-step process of how you're opening your coffee shop, the different checkpoints you need from coming up with your plans and talking with the city and then negotiating a lease. And then how do you build a team and what are the different pieces you need to be thinking about? It's a great masterclass, door to door, start to finish, completely free on opening up your next coffee drive-through. So check it out. It's at myfirstdrivethrough.coffee, and it's a great masterclass. You won't regret it. We'll see you on the inside there.
Welcome to the Coffee Experts Club, where we discuss all of the insights, expertise, and drama that goes into making your passion your profession. Our hosts, Aaron, Ben, and Drew, are three coffee experts who have taken their coffee experience and turned it into true expertise. They have consulted with major coffee brands throughout the United States and beyond, providing operations expertise and growth strategy for drive-through openings, multiple locations, and everything in between. So brew yourself a cup and hang out a bit with the Coffee Experts Club.
Good to see you boys. How's the day?
Grand.
Great. Any of you tuning in, I just want you to know the backstory to this. I've heard nothing but shit talk from these guys and our guests already about my technical skills and my computer abilities. Having trouble with StreamYard today, so we're starting spicy today. It's going to be good. Joining you from my cell phone because Ben says I don't know how to run tech. So Ben, I just want to say thank you for that.
I think Drew said it's like watching a monkey discover fire.
At least we're not. No
At least we're
bonus
gonna be
this year. I was going to be nice. No bonus.
screen sharing today, so we won't have to zoom in on our computers.
Anyway, guys, super good to be with you guys, especially as we get ready to close out the year. I think this is an exciting time of the year for a lot of people, a scary time of the year, though, too, especially as we anticipate January. January usually is a drop off month for a lot of coffee, where everybody experiences that a little bit. I know that can be a little bit scary. So, those of you tuning in, I think it's really good to lean in, glean things here. If you're thinking about starting coffee, I think it's a good thing for you to know, like not all months of the year, all equal great drive times, lots of sales. I think it's a good thing to keep in mind, but every guest we bring in, we're able to hear a different angle, a different insight. So lean in extra. If you know anybody's thinking about starting coffee, you're at the right place. This is the place to send them. If you're thinking about starting coffee yourself, and realize not all coffee has to look the same. And I think that's what I'm most excited to talk to our guest about today. Today, we have an amazing guest, Susan Arredondo from Good Grounds Coffee in Adair Village here in Oregon. I think that she has something really beautiful and she does something super unique. So let's bring Susan to stage, boys.
Hey,
How's it going?
good. Good.
Susan, I was going to be nice to you today, but then you jumped in on the trash talk. It's all on now. It's all games.
I just couldn't help it.
I love it. I'm an easy target. Don't worry. We joke around here about how I like my Americanos in an 8-ounce cup because they're short and strong, like me, short and strong. So we take all kinds of jabs. So don't you worry. I'm a good butt of a joke. And Drew and Ben kick it often. And so way to join in on the fun. Hey, so Susan, I'm excited to have you here. Good Grounds is a special spot. I think you've got a beautiful spot. I think the things that make you unique is you're not necessarily in a city center, right? So I'd like to talk to you a little bit about that. You're off the 99, which is a fast moving highway. I know the boys here, guys, I think about things like 395 back in the day. Lots of traffic, but man, people moving super fast, and I know that caught us a little flat-footed for roasters back in the day where we're like, this is going to be such a great location. But when people are passing at 55, like that's a tough one, right? Because they're going to have to jam on a break to get into your spot. So I think Susan's been working through some of those things. Yeah, that's something that's unique about her, but she's done great with it. Her spot is beautiful. Her shop is beautiful. I've got to go there myself and really enjoyed just the ambiance, and the coffee's excellent and the spot is excellent. But she also has a second location that I'm really excited to talk about too. We're going to get into today. But Susan, so good to have you on the show. And maybe just kick us off a little bit on how long have you been on this journey and what made you get into this journey? And are you like, holy shit, what am I doing in this journey now? This feels like, there's some scariness to it, right? Like it's not all just like roses and butterflies, right?
No.
There's some difficulty too. So maybe just tell us a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, so I started out with our mobile shop, which is think food truck, but it's a coffee shop on wheels. We call it our mobile shop. That was our first location. I started that at the end of 2020. I have a huge heart for serving people who have been affected by natural disasters. I've been involved in Hurricane Rita and Katrina, and about that time here in Oregon, we had some pretty major wildfires that didn't directly affect where we are, but the area around us. So there was a lot of people displaced. And so my family and I were out helping with volunteering for that. And I've always had a huge love for coffee and good coffee, quality coffee. I'm not sugary coffee, the real good quality coffee. And so it just sort of came to me, hey, why don't I start a mobile shop for coffee that I can take to places that have been affected by natural disasters
Yeah.
and serve coffee for free to victims who've been affected, to volunteers. And that piece of our business is still a work in progress. Thankfully, there has not yet been an opportunity for us to do that, but that's another piece of the business that I'm working on to be able to be ready for when that call comes for us. So that's really where we originated. I was working in the medical field for 7 years at that point. So I ran the mobile shop and the start of the business for a year while also working in the medical field during COVID. His
Cool.
plaque on it, and I'm like, I was completely crazy.
So then,
But yeah, so the mobile shop took off. And so it just got to a point by the end of 2021, I had to make a decision, which was not a difficult one at that point, to leave my full-time position and pursue the business full-time.
In the medical field in 2020, and we were kind of talking before this, starting a business coming out of 2020, it's like, oof, I would not want to make that decision or work through that because that sounds like it's tough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
looking back, it was, but in the moment, I was just doing it. Like it just was, right? So yeah, and it taught me a lot. I worked harder and it was more challenged than I've ever been at anything else in my life and continue to be challenged. It was about 2 years, actually, it was almost 2 years to the day that we opened the mobile shop and started the business that then the brick and mortar location basically got dropped on our lap of like, you got to do this. And I hadn't really, along with all the way I kind of approached this whole thing unknowingly, I really didn't have a plan on how I was going to grow the business. I was just trying to get going what I had going. And so we live in a dare village. My son went to school. He just graduated from Saniam Christian, which is the private school here in town. So it was like, this is our community. These are our people. Like, how can I not bring the product that we have to this community? Like,
Sure.
it's like, this is a no brainer. Now in some conversations I've had with Aaron, I'm like, man, there were a lot of things I should have looked at before I just jumped into it, but it's working. We're doing it. Yeah.
but
So
I think just to be honest, like, and Drew, I mean, you and I have been experiencing down in Belize. Ben, you definitely saw at the very beginning of the Roasters days, being one of the very first employees for West back when he had one location before he grew to 15 and then a roastery and then an exit to BlackRock. I mean, where at the very beginning, I think a lot of people enter in with only half the story, and it's like, and it can feel a little bit half baked and there can be a ton of risk that once you're in it, you're like, holy I just did not know that this was going to be everything I'm up against. But I feel like so let's acknowledge there is a risk taking factor of it, obviously. But like we always talk about here, how can you mitigate as much risk as possible? I'm not risk adverse. I just want to know all the parameters that I'm up against before I take the risk, and I think that I know you and I are having conversations about other opportunities that seem super exciting. And I think other opportunities super exciting are super exciting, but let's just make sure that we're like looking at it both eyes open, make sure that we're really taking account for it, because you can take some risk at the beginning, but the bigger the risks get, the bigger the implications become and can collateralize the rest of the business. So I think it's great. Your location's great. I think your location's beautiful. I think it adds veracity to the brand when you start seeing multiple doors, so I think they're always those amazing things. But I don't know if you guys have other questions. I've got all kinds of questions about the cart.
Yeah.
On top of the drive-through, because we talk to a lot of people that have drive-throughs. We don't talk to a lot of people that do the mobile carts. And I think that that's a unique. We had somebody ask the other day on socials, should I start a cart? Should I start a building? Should I had a bunch of variables should it just be like a literal push cart? Should it be a drive truck, like a food truck? Should it be like this or that? And we told them a lot of that has to do with budget. A lot of that has to do with like where you see the business going. We know businesses right now that have only drive-through trucks, like they only have trucks that are mobile.
Yeah, I had a just out of curiosity with the mobile truck. Have you found that it's better to keep it in one location so your customers always know where you are, or are you constantly moving to different locations like events and stuff like that?
Yeah, we are constantly moving. So we are completely event based. We sort of started when we very first started trying to do kind of like a permanent spots, like certain days of the week kind of schedule. And it just didn't work because
Hmm.
people, as we all know, because we all are coffee drinkers, you have your habit and everyone does, right? They're going to work, they're dropping kids off, whatever it is. They have their habits of where they're picking up their coffee in the morning.
Mhm.
And to get people to completely switch those habits and you're moving every day, it just didn't make sense once I kind of got into it for it wasn't long, couple weeks.
Hmm.
And so then I just went event based and that has been really good for us. We've got a pretty solid base of events that we've now done 2, 3 years, almost 4. It'll be 4 this next year of events that we do on a regular basis. But that was, you know, in the beginning, I tell people when they talk to me about coffee trailers, the first year you got to take anything and everything someone gives you. If you go and you make $15, great, but you are now giving yourself exposure and people know you're out there and word of mouth starts happening. And that's how you get more events. And that's how you can get into some of the bigger events and you can grow that way. If you're set up and you want to do bigger events, there's just so many options when it comes to being mobile.
I guess, sorry, Drew, you were about to say something. I'm going to cut you off completely. Well, my next like direct question out of that is, then are you sort of like your own salesperson where you're having to go out to these events and be like, hey, I have a coffee truck. Can I bring my coffee truck here? Or are they coming to you at this point?
They've been coming to me since the beginning. I actually didn't have to do a whole lot of networking. The business that wrapped my trailer was the first place they're like, "Hey, come set up in our parking lot. Like anytime you want, come set up in our parking lot to help. We'll help you get started," kind of a thing. And then the healthcare facility that I worked for, they also had me actually come in and do some serving for the healthcare workers and that type of thing. I wish I could remember how I got this connection, but oh, I do remember. The CEO and president of Citizens Bank in Corvallis, I connected with his wife and did an event at their kids' elementary school for the teachers. Then Gordon reached out to me during 2021 wanting to do something special for healthcare workers. So he sponsored us for numerous days to just set up at the hospital and serve coffee for free to all healthcare workers. And then on
Hmm.
top of that, he reached out to his board members, and there were other businesses within the community that sponsored us to be at that event. And we actually ended up being on the cover of this banking magazine for the work that we did with Gordon to give back to healthcare workers, which
That's
was,
awesome.
yeah, it was incredible. I was like, this is not real. Like, yeah. So, and we've done stuff for Gordon at the bank for his employees. And so it kind of, with opportunities like that, the word just kept spreading. So, yeah, I was extremely lucky and thankful that I wasn't having to really do a lot of like, you know, going out there and networking. It really just sort of grew. And we were the only coffee trailer at that time in our area. So it was something new. So as people found out, they wanted us there. So yeah, that part for me came pretty easy. Not as quick as I would have liked to, but it was actually nice because it allowed me time to grow. It allowed me time to
Mhm.
shift things. We didn't get like slammed right in the beginning where I'm like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Our growth really went at a pretty steady, good rate for me to be able to adjust and grow with the business and figure out how then to do bigger events because I had so much experience with the smaller ones.
That's so cool.
And I think obviously gave you a good feeling footprint, right? Like that way you're not saddling into a big lease and like a lot of overhead and a bunch of
Yep.
labor and like all the different things that a lot of times that's the hard part is balancing your P&L, right? And how do we make this thing work? And I think they gave you a good on ramp into that. So I think That's exciting.
Hey, coffee experts. Those of you running independent coffee shops, you're always looking for ways that you can drop your costs. And we here at the Coffee Experts Club really understand that. And so we've started something called Indie Coffee Coalition. And what it's designed to do is to drop your costs on two of the things that you're probably experiencing the highest sales volume in your store. And that is energy drink and frat mix. Those two line items, we've created our own products and are offering you those products at a reduced cost so that you can cut out the Red Bull of America. You can cut out the main lines of energy drinks that you're doing and serve your own energy drink at a reduced cost on a line item that you're probably already making a lot of sales on anyway. The best way that you can grow sales is by dropping your costs and maintaining a current volume. So check us out at indiecoffee.co and we'll love to tell you more there.
I'm just curious around, I mean, as we all go into a new venture, and it sounds like you already had your hands full before this, what the learning process was like. Did you have resources that you were able to lean on, or did you learn as you go through just experiencing the difficult, things that came your way? And was there networking involved? How did you find avenues kind of to teach yourself in the coffee space?
Yeah, it was very much learn as I go, especially that I would say first year, my roaster gave me some, I was, as I'm buying equipment from Black Rabbit up in Portland, the Double J helped me out a lot in learning equipment and what do I need. And then my roaster, which is Cafe Mom down in Eugene, they were helpful in helping me. I guess let me back up. When I was picking a roaster, I still can't believe that I did made the right decisions. Like knowing that I knew pretty much nothing,
Right.
but really made the right choices now, 4 years later. But so with the roasters, I found just 3 roasters and I'm like, this is awesome. They are just sending me coffee like crazy because they, want our business. I'm like, this is great. So I did some blind taste tests with the roasters that I had. I knew I wanted Cafe Mom. They were my top pick, but I wanted to make sure it wasn't just me.
Right.
So I did some actual blind taste tests and marked the bottoms of cups and with these 3 different roasters and Cafe Moms, no matter which one it was, they were always in the top 5. And so I think with the help of just kind of going through the process of starting the business, I learned more specific, like behind the scene coffee type things, like all the things. But as far as like resources, I really started looking like on Instagram, started following some well-known coffee shops, some just coffee people to start learning. I learned about the SCA conference very early on, and I got to go to that last year, and this past in Chicago, which was eye-opening as well. But yeah, really early on, it was like a trial by fire. And luckily now this far in, I'm like, man, I made the right choices. Like, without really knowing exactly what the future was going to be. Because, like, for our mobile shop, and this is something I talk to people about when they're wanting to go mobile. Just like Aaron said, it's like, do I do a trailer? Do I do a truck? Do I do a cart? And it's like, I just did the trailer because that's just what I thought I should do. But if you're wanting to get into that big event space, you have to have space. You've got to have a
Sure.
group head machine. You have to have all that equipment to be able to keep up with the demand of a big event. And I wasn't even thinking of that when I picked my equipment, but I ended up getting a 2 group head and like all the things and working through with Double J on what we needed. And it's like, it must have been in the way I was explaining things that he picked the right things to, head me in the right direction. I don't know, but we've got everything that we need. But yeah, big part of it was just trial by error. And now, I've found you guys. I've got some other resources that I take advantage of to help, even just on a business side. Mine is outside of coffee. I think you got to have that balance. If you can't just look at coffee people for your business, look outside of coffee and what people are doing just from a business aspect, to grow their businesses, to have that perspective too.
That's feels spot on.
I think the coffee industry, it seems like more than any, because it's not like a formalized franchise where you're buying into. This is an indie thing that you're going out on. We do a lot with independents. We love the indies, but I do think that as much learning curve as you can take out of it, I'm going to use this as an opportunity to shamelessly plug Coffee Experts Academy is something that we do. We give you like 35 weeks of content for the sake of deep diving a lot of these things. Find somewhere where you're getting some kind of knowledge base, like Susan was talking about, is super important, because otherwise a lot of people will say, well, I've run coffee before, or I've worked at coffee shops, managed things. I know how this works. But usually what that means is they've seen a side of it, but they don't know the whole thing of it. And so what we really talk about a lot, even in the free masterclass, your first drive through, my first drive through.coffee is the URL on that one, is we talk about, yeah, but what did your boss not tell you? What were they not talking to you about? Because those are the things you need to be scared of. Those are the things you need to be afraid of. You may know the day to day, you may know some of the pieces for managing your own thing, pulling shots, putting drinks out a window, but I promise you, there are big moving pieces that you don't understand. Find somebody that can give you that education. So if it's us, I feel like we do it really well. It's not very expensive, but I think that find somebody, if not us, that you can lean on. So
Yeah, and the pulling the shots and handing the drink out the window, that's the fun part.
You just
And that's like 1% of running the business. I tell people that all the time. I said, yeah, I'll tell them, like, especially with the mobile shop, because people are like, oh my gosh, you get to go do all these things and how fun. And I'm like, it is. It's a lot of fun, but that's literally 1% of what it takes for us to get
Mhm.
here. I don't think people realize, and I think it probably is that way with any business. They have no idea the pieces that are going on in the background to get everything done so that everybody can do what they're doing and keep the business going. So, you can keep your employees employed.
Mhm. I'm curious with you going with the brick and mortar and opening that up. Did you feel like the mobile cart kind of prepared you a lot for going brick and mortar, or was it like a whole other beast? And you're like, oh my God, this is completely different than what I'm used to.
It's different, but I have tell people this all the time. I would take 5 brick and mortars over another trailer any day.
that's good. Give us that perspective. That's good.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So with a brick and mortar, right? You're in one spot. You can kind of get some sort of an idea of what your traffic flow is going to be, what your numbers are going to look like, and all of that. Easy to schedule employees. You're open this time to this time on these days. It really has consistency to a certain extent to it.
Yeah.
With the trailer, I could have an event canceled. I could have because of weather, because they just canceled it. Who knows? I could have an event, somebody calls and they want to do an event in 2 days. Well, I've already got my schedule out for all my employees. So now what?
Mhm.
Now I have to find an employee, which my son works for me. So that usually defaults to him because I'll actually get a choice most of the time. But, eventually he won't work for me at some point. But the trailer just has a lot more pieces to it. It's a lot of work. You're loading in and loading out of the trailer. You're, especially in the first year, you're going to events and you have no clue, no matter what a coordinator has told you how busy it's going to be. I've had coordinators tell me, oh, yeah, you're going to be so busy. We're at 5,000 people here and we show up and there's barely 200. You bought all these supplies because, and part of that is they want you to come, right? So they're going to sell it to you. And you figure that out over time on how to kind of look for that and hear no reality. Because really, when you go to an event, you're going to get about 15%, maybe 20% of the attendants are going to come and buy from you. So, but then you could have gone and bought 20 gallons of milk
Yeah.
and you went through 2. So now if we didn't have the shop which for 2 years we didn't, it's like, well, now what do I do with all this milk? Like, we either need to find another event or what am I going to do? So that when you only have say just one mobile, ordering can be very difficult because you don't want to and especially in that first year, or even just taking on a new event, you don't know. You're walking into it and you don't know, or it can go on the other side. You bought 5 gallons of milk and you should add 20 and you have nobody to run and get you more milk. And you're like, what are we going to do? We're going to close. Now we've just lost money because we didn't know our numbers. We didn't know where we needed to be. We didn't get the right information. We didn't ask the right questions. I learned that in our first year of what questions specifically more that I needed to ask to make sure that we kept ourselves out of those situations. And now with the trailer, we've done so many of the events numerous times that I would take notes every time after an event of, hey, we need to bring 15 more gallons of milk, or we need to stay open 2 more hours, or we could close an hour earlier because it slowed down sooner, or, we need to bring more bags of beans or whatever it is so that I can look back on or I need another 2 employees because it was way busier than what we anticipated. So that when I look back and we're scheduled at that same event the next year, I can look back on my notes and be like, that's right. I need to make sure I'm doing A, B, and C to make sure we're more successful at this event than we were the year before. So there's just a lot more planning, strategizing, learning when you go into an event based piece of the business than when you have a brick and mortar. It's just more, you've got more consistency to it.
Makes total sense.
Well, yeah. Man, what good stuff. You're like a wealth. I'm so excited that we got to talk to you a little bit, especially the side of the business that we haven't got to adventure a lot into, and that's the whole idea of Coffee Cart on top of brick and mortar. And I know you've got some exciting opportunities maybe to expand, so we're excited for you for that. So keep an eye out for this lady who's like taking some great ground up there in Adair Village in the Corvallis area. Susan, I really appreciate your time just coming on Coffee Experts and sharing with us some of your knowledge. I know that, yeah, it's good for listeners to hear a diversity of perspectives, to really be asking themselves, what kind of coffee do I want to do? And I think she really helped with that. So thank you so much for joining us on the show, Drew. Ben, always good to have you guys. Listeners, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time here.
Thanks so much for joining us today. For those of you who are looking to become a coffee expert yourself, we offer an incredible, thorough training online for opening your first coffee drive-thru at www.myfirstdrivethru.coffee.